I have seen with my practice that the first child takes maximum karma. Think of it like this. There's a grandfather, then the mother, and then the daughter. So when grandfather dies at a young age, then the mother would have this unresolved grief that she could not get her father's love for a longer period of time. So when she will get married, and her first marriage, and then she'll have this first child, at that point of time she will be missing her father's love and support. Her attention subconsciously would be on her missing father. And when this starts to happen, that grief is passed down to the gene factors. This unresolved grief is passed down to the child. It's also possible the second and third child may also represent that karma and that trauma of the mother. However, the first child may get maximum karma because at that point of time, think of it like a very important moment where she would be missing her father. The second and third time she sort of deals with it and becomes okay with it after a few years. But the first child and the first time, the trauma becomes extremely intense because these are those moments when the mother will be missing her own father, the lost father the most. However, if there is an abortion between the first and the second child, then the second child can have even more karma because abortion or miscarriage, this kind of an experience would cause the mother to have such an intense trauma of losing the child and the fear of losing the child as well. So that when she's having the next child, at the subconscious level, this unresolved either guilt will be there or grief would be there. That can cause a bonding or that can cause an attachment between the second and the third child. So I have seen with my practice that people who have suicidal or migraines or a lot of depression cases, somewhere if I ask them, and they don't even know about it, but I make them call their mother in the session, and then their mother finally reveals them after 30 years that yes, there was an abortion or a miscarriage just before you. And that is actually the cause why they are having depression, because they are identifying or they are taking characteristics of that child who got lost. In the family dynamics, in the family karma, any person that gets excluded or forgotten needs to be represented somewhere next down the line in the progeny. No one can be excluded. Otherwise what will happen is like chemistry, left hand side is equal to right hand side. Or like mathematics, if one side of the equation is disbalanced, the other side will have to compensate for it. Similarly, if one part of the family member is missing, the other part of the family member has to be represented. And you may ask, how does the remaining family members know that? They are experiencing the trauma, but they don't even know that this has actually happened to them at consciously. These things are not working at the conscious level. These things are working at the unconscious, at a psychological level, because your genes remember those family members. Your genes are having the information of how many grandfathers were there, how many grandmothers were there, and how many uncle, aunties. If there was a step-grandmother, there was step-grandfather, your genes are having all that information in the morphogenic field. But whenever the disbalance happens, the progeny is missing one family member, and this kind of exclusion creates a psychosis in the child that he or she is looking for that family member. I have seen a lot of children, they tell their mother that my mother, you never loved me, my mother, you never loved me. And the mother said that, my child, I always loved you. Why you always feel like that? And later on they discover actually they were just representing one child that just died before them, who was missing his mother's love. So they were subconsciously acting out as their earlier dead sibling and they never knew about it. So that when we resolve this psychologically and karmically, their behaviors change tremendously and they could have a good relationship with their parents.